Welcome to TAG TV's Meet the Politician series. I am Tahir Gora. Today we are joined with a very seasoned politician, MP Honourable Tony Clement.
Mr. Trudeau's negatives are actually ahead of his positives for the first time. More people in Canada have a negative view of Mr. Trudeau than a positive view. And that's a very significant change to what was occurring. 92% of the middle class in Canada are facing increased taxes under Justin Trudeau, not decreased taxes. We're going through these NAFTA talks right now. The Conservative Party hopes that those talks are successful. According to the Liberal plans, if they continue on, we would have further deficits for another 27 years. There's a lot of similarities between Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau in the sense that the way they command social media, for instance.
All those countries who we are fighting with are getting money.
This allows me to talk a little bit about my private member's bill, which is actually going to a vote next week in Parliament. And it is a bill designed to prevent radicalization that occurs because of foreign funding. Bill says that if you are a country where terrorism or radicalization is promoted or encouraged, you would be put on a list by the government. I've actually got a lot of support from moderate Muslim groups, as well as anti-terrorism groups here. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Tony Clement is the Member of Parliament for Parry Sounds, Muskoka. He was first elected as MP in 2006. Since his election to the House of Commons, Mr. Clement has served as Treasury Board President, Minister of Health, Minister of Industry, Foreign Affairs Critic, and Public Safety Critic. During his private sector career, Mr. Clement has been a lawyer, a business board member, and a small business owner and entrepreneur. Mr. Clement has most recently been appointed as the official opposition critic for public services and procurement of the Conservative Party of Canada. Welcome again, Honourable Tony Clement.
Thank you.
We are also joined with dynamic panelists today. Asfandyar Wadiwala, Conservative Party's outreach, and Halima Sadia, TAG TV's anchor, and Anil Jethi, long-time Conservative. So welcome all of you.
Thank you for having us.
And I'll begin our conversation. My first question should be, how's the party doing?
Thank you. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be on the show again. I think it's been a couple of years since I was last here, so thank you for the honor of being on your show. I would say that we are moving forward very, very quickly. As you know, we elected our new leader, Andrew Scheer, last May. Since that time, the caucus is united behind our new party leader, and Andrew Scheer has been working very hard and very quickly. He's appointed a campaign manager and a campaign organization to get ready for the next election. But it's not just about the tactics of an election, it's about the policy that you want to portray to the people of Canada. And here Andrew Scheer has already started to put some planks together. Just recently he's announced a bill that he's being put forward by Mr. Scheer to Parliament to give new parents a tax break, to stop the clawback on EI benefits and new parent benefits by the Canada Revenue Agency. Just one example of how we're trying to make life more affordable for people. So expect more of these kinds of positive policies. And I think the main difference that Mr. Scheer is offering is a positive alternative to Mr. Trudeau leading up to the next election.
As you're talking about Conservative Party leader Andrew Scheer, and I remember when he got elected, the media had kind of a response that media was not certain about the future of Conservative Party. How do you see the future of Conservative Party today?
Well, I think it's very positive. What we're picking up is a couple of things. First of all, Mr. Trudeau's negatives are actually ahead of his positives for the first time since the election of 2015. More people in Canada have a negative view of Mr. Trudeau than a positive view. And that's a very significant change to what was occurring in 2015. Mr. Scheer, in terms of the Conservative Party of Canada, there's a lot of people that are looking at the Conservative Party of Canada and saying that it's a possibility that they might vote for them. What you look for when you're part of a political party and part of a campaign is, what is your accessible universe, we call it. Like, how many people in the country are even willing to consider you? At the end of the 2015, when we were not returned to power, the number of people who were willing to consider voting Conservative was below 30%. Mm-hmm. Now it's around 46, 47%. Now, I'm not saying they're all supporting the Conservative Party, but at least they're willing to consider.
To talk and consider.
And that's significant. That number, by the way, is higher than Mr. Harper's number in 2006 when he was first elected, mm-hmm. that universe of possible supporters. So we are opening doors as a political party. We are actively engaging in GTA, in the Vancouver area. We just had a caucus meeting in Victoria, BC, and we had things going on in Surrey and other parts of Vancouver. In Atlantic Canada, where we have 0 seats, I think we're making some progress there. Those are just a couple of examples of how we're making progress getting our message out. So we've got a year and a half to go. That's a long time in politics, as we know. But I think that people are looking for an alternative. And quite frankly, Mr. Trudeau, in some ways, making it easy, because he keeps breaking promises, he keeps making bad decisions for taxpayers and for veterans and for people who care about national security, these kinds of things. So I think that momentum will continue for us.
I would like to invite our panelists now, and Asfandiyar Wadiwala.
Thank you, Tony, for coming over to TAC TV. As you are aware that I'm a nationalist conservative. So last week when we heard the speech of State of Union address from President Trump, lots of Canadians are really amazed at the progress he has made within a year's time, how the economy is building up, and how much investment is coming into USA. Whereas Canada has not taken initiative. The Prime Minister is totally lacking behind. The taxes they have reduced from 35% to 21%. So where do we stand? We find ourselves in real hot waters, but our Prime Minister has never said a word about it, how Canada is going to deal with the trend of changing of USA.
Aspie, it's even worse than that. He has said something about it. He went to the Billionaires Conference, the World Economic Forum, in Davos, Switzerland. Justin Trudeau spoke to the billionaires at Davos, and he proudly said, "We know the Americans are cutting taxes. We will not cut taxes." That's what he said. These are taxes that the Americans are cutting for the middle class. These are middle class taxes. There are bonuses being paid to workers.
Yes.
1.4 million workers for Walmart got a $1,000 bonus in the USA. Apple employees got a bonus.
And Exxon is bringing a bigger investment.
Exactly, and Apple's bringing in $250 billion.
300 billion.
300 billion.
Yeah.
More investment in America. So Mr. Trudeau takes that information, goes to the billionaire club in Davos and says, we are proudly not going to follow the United States in lowering taxes. Well, that's easy for him to say with his billionaire friends. But you know, the people who are affected are the middle class.
Middle class.
And so this is the scary thing. This Prime Minister who laid claim to being the spokesperson for middle class in Canada. That's how he ran his campaign 3 years ago. In fact, is making it tougher. The latest calculation is 92% of the middle class in Canada are facing increased taxes under Justin Trudeau, not decreased taxes. That's the reality
That's
for the
the
middle
reality,
class.
true.
So from our perspective, we're saying, you know, your rhetoric doesn't match the reality. You're actually not helping the middle class. You're hurting the middle class. And we need a real change in direction on how this government is going. If the middle class are going to have any chance of survival. It's an affordability issue. For your viewers, it's how do we, you know, yes, you know, the economy might be going stronger, but how can I afford the groceries, the gas, the amenities for my family?
True.
That's the issue, and that's the issue he's not addressing.
It's building up.
It's building up. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Thank you.
Halima Sadia.
I would, since it's the question of economy, my question is, we are so much interdependent. The world we are living in, we are so interdependent. So if we see the disparity and the economic situation, it's globally getting worsened. But Canada and America has strong ties, where one affects the others. And where we are living is a very sophisticated, high-tech system of security. Security and economy goes hand in hand. Where do Canada stand, and how conservatives are going to tackle that problem?
The problem of security.
Security and economy together.
Economy together.
You know, and it's so important that we keep our border as open as possible with the United States. They have legitimate security concerns. They are a target of terrorism, just as we are a target of terrorism. But it's also for our interest to have the border open so that our economies, which are so interrelated, as you said, we're going through these NAFTA talks right now. The Conservative Party hopes that those talks are successful. Andrew Scheer brought several MPs with him to Washington a few weeks ago, met with Congress men and women, met with senators, met with governors and people involved in the administration as well, and said, look, we're together as Canadians. We want to continue to trade with the United States. We want to have this close relationship. While Mr. Scheer was over there, we learned that the Canadian ambassador to China, John McCallum, you may remember John when he was when he was an MP. John McCallum was briefing Chinese reporters and officials, saying, well, you know, China is our best friend now, not America. We want to do more with China, less with America. And we're saying to ourselves, wait a minute, you know, we're actually negotiating with America right now. This is probably not a message Americans want to, you know, even if you believed it to be the case, which I don't believe we're closer to China than America. I don't believe that. But even if you believe that, you shouldn't be saying that when you're pursuing these NAFTA talks. At the same time, I want to raise these security concerns of some of these decisions that the Liberals are pursuing in investment and trade. Again, with the People's Republic of China. Again, I have no issue with the Chinese people. This is about the government of China. And the government of China is pursuing a very aggressive policy of investment and takeovers. So the first one was Norsat, which is a satellite technology firm. So they take over Norsat, and they're a Vancouver company. I demanded as public safety critic that there be a national security review. No national security review is done. So that's the first one. The most recent one is that is ongoing right now is the proposed takeover of Aecon, which is a construction firm, huge construction firm in Canada, a Chinese governmental entity with close ties with the Chinese Communist Party is seeking to take it over. We've raised some concern. We said, look, you have to do a national security review on this. So far, no national security review. And this is not only a problem of protecting Canadians. When Americans see this, this is to your point, they say, what's going on here? You know, Canada is our ally, and they're not taking these encroachments of investments by Chinese governmental agencies very seriously. So I'd say it's a legitimate concern. Now, as I say, I want to make it clear, the Conservative Party of Canada's position is we are pro-NAFTA. We want a success. We want Mr. Trudeau to be successful. in the
Yeah,
NAFTA
that is
negotiations.
for all the three countries.
Okay, I'm not here, wanting misery loves company. Okay, this is too important. We want the NAFTA negotiations to be successful, but there's these worrying signs. So that's the situation. I wish I had a better answer for you. We'll wait to see how the NAFTA negotiations occur. Security issues, unfortunately, they're growing, and this is of grave concern. And we've had illegal border crossings to Canada. Trudeau government has not really responded very well or very effectively. So these issues are continuing to grow.
Carrying on from our economy part, like my question is for the budget. We are going in deficit budget every year. My question is, do you see is creating any jobs like they claim? If not, where that money is going?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the unemployment situation is better. There's no question about it. And let's face it, we know that the American growth has helped us in Canada as the rest of the world, and that's the reality of the situation. The issue, though, is how sustainable it is. And just as Aspie was talking about the tax reductions that have been passed by the U.S. Congress, it's going to affect our competitiveness unless we are competitive with taxes. But American taxes are going down, Canadian taxes are going up. That's the reality of the situation, whether it's the carbon tax or whether it's all of these new taxes on small businesses, the attack on local businesses that the Trudeau government has launched. They're all going this way. And then you've got provincial policies like Kathleen Wynne's policies, which are not helping local businesses either. So a combination of all these things mean that we are less competitive. And then you mentioned the deficit. Well, not only do we have, now Mr. Trudeau, here was his promise, a modest deficit, he promised for 2 years, and then we'd get back to a balanced budget by 2019. That was his promise. Well, the modest deficit turned out to be 3 times the amount in the first year that he predicted. Now the parliamentary budget officer, who's an independent third-party reviewer of budgets, said that we are going to have, according to the Liberal plans, if they continue on, we would have further deficits for another 27 years, which is basically the foreseeable future. What does that mean? To the average person, what does a deficit mean? It means higher taxes. It means fewer government services because it's not sustainable. It also means less opportunity and less jobs for our kids. So these are things that have a real impact. It's not just a deficit number. It's not just a number. It means a policy choice that hurts our ability to create jobs for our kids in the future, hurts the affordability of our homes with mortgage rates that are going to go up. And this is the other thing that the Trudeau government doesn't like to talk about, but mortgage rates are going to go up.
Already gone up.
Already gone up. We know the base rate has gone up, and these are things that are going to continue. So all of these things are connected, as you well know, and really the Trudeau government has not responded to these in a way that will help the everyday citizen. That's the reality of the situation.
If we come in a government in 2019, how we are going to take care of this deficit? This is our duty to balance the budget and then give it to Liberal, and they again come back and do it?
Well, I think we're going to have a fiscal policy that gets us back to balance. We did it before. We'll do it again. When I was head of the Treasury, we had a plan, and we did balance the budget. We were actually in surplus by a couple of $2 billion by the end, and sometimes you got to make some difficult decisions. But I think that there's lots that we can do to balance the budget. Sometimes it's the little things, but what my experience has been, when bureaucracies see what government ministers are willing to spend money on, it just means the taps get turned on, and then everybody starts spending wildly. And when you spend, I'll give you an example. When you spend at first $5.6 million, now it's up to $8 or $9 million on this temporary skating rink in front of the Parliament building when you have the longest skating trail in the world called the Rideau Canal, 300 meters away. It sends a message to the entire system that you can spend money on anything. And it's a very bad message to send to bureaucracies, quite frankly. But that's what we have with the Liberal government. Their priorities are all for the showy aspects of governing. They like the showy aspects, not necessarily the roll-up-your-sleeve aspects of government.
Like we had the ducky last year back at Clement.
That's right.
The ducky was brought here or at the expense of taxpayers.
Yeah, you know, and everybody got their selfie with the ducky and so on. But, you know, at the end of the day, it just shows it's a signal of disrespect to the taxpayers'
money.
That's right.
My question to you is, recently we had a retreat in Victoria, BC.
The caucus did, yeah.
The caucus did. So we would like to hear from you, from the horse's mouth, what was finally decided for the benefit of Conservative and for Canadians.
Sure. So when we have these two-day meetings, we do a number of things. First and foremost, we plan our strategy for the next session of the House of Commons. So what bills are going to be debated and what's going to be our approach to question period, those kinds of things. So nitty-gritty kind of stuff. Secondly, we tried to broaden it out. We did a couple of things. First of all, we were in British Columbia, so we wanted to hear about the British Columbian political scene. Why? What happened in BC? They've had a change of government. It's now an NDP Green government.
Yeah.
Why did the Liberal government lose? And what are some lessons? Some lessons to be learned, you know. And there were some very interesting insights that we gained in terms of how affordability became the issue, and how the NDP got on the right side of that issue and the Liberals got on the wrong side of the issue. Things like there were bridge tolls in Vancouver area. They also pay a health premium. Every British Columbia pays a health premium. We're not used to that in Ontario for a long time, but they have a health premium, a monthly health premium. So the NDP came along and said no more bridge tolls, and we'll phase out the health premiums. And the Liberals said, oh, that's terrible. Well, guess what? Most people say, you know what? That makes my life as a parent more affordable, my life as a driver trying to get to work more affordable. So they kind of got on the right side of the affordability issue with and the British Columbian economy is probably the best provincial economy in the country. So that was an interesting lesson. The other lesson is, you know, go big or go home. If you're going to be a political party that wants to run a government, you can't do incremental changes. You've got to have some big changes in the shop window that will get the eye and the attention of the voters. So, and it has to be credible. It has to be credible with who you are, in our case as Conservatives, as well as credible to the voters. So what those policies are, we don't know yet, because we're in the midst of getting our policy platform together. We've got a big conference happening in Halifax. A national Conservative conference in Halifax in August.
Convention, yeah.
At the convention, we'll have a lot of policy being debated there, because that's how we do things. We debate these things openly. And out of that conference, I think, will come the final platform. So I think that was kind of the framework of what we were talking about.
Views, you're watching our interactive discussion with Honourable MP Tony Clement, and we'll take a short break. Stay tuned with us.
Knowledge, integrity, experience, and service. These are really the elements you are looking for in a good financial professional. Whether it is life and critical insurance to protect your family and business, retirement savings to live comfortably, education savings to educate your children, group health benefits to safeguard your employees, or travel and super visa insurance for your friends and family. That's what Zaid Syed of Arouge Financial brings to your table. Call him at 905-624-0008 or visit arougefinancial.com.
Greenish Hair, Skin and Nails formula is packed with all the essential nutrients like biotin, omega-3, vitamins, and minerals to provide your hair, skin, and nails the nourishment that it needs. Like all other greenish vitamins and supplements, the hair, skin, and nails formula is gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, and non-GMO. It is also halal, kosher, and veggie certified. So make Greenish Hair, Skin, and Nails formula a part of your daily healthcare routine.
Welcome back, viewers. We are talking to MP Tony Clement. And our panelists are Asfandyar Wadiwala, Halima Sadia, and Anil Jeti. My concern is about Canada's relationship with the United States. Recently, our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said in one of his town hall meetings that unruly neighbors, quote unquote, that's the term he used. And I believe that we are not just an ally to the United States, we are the best neighbors, we are the kind of two brothers, two sisters.
Elder brother, rather. US is elder brother, we consider.
I mean, in that context, I feel like our relationship is not what used to be. One thing. And secondly, also in the case of Omar Khadr, in case of security issues, our decisions are clearly not in the interest of our best neighbor, our best ally, and our best friend and also business partner.
Biggest business partner.
So, do you see any impact in coming days? Since Mr. Trump is tough on many issues, he's tough on ISIS, he's tough on many fronts. So, do you see that like we would be losing our ground somewhere?
It's a good question to hear. I don't know the complete answer just yet. I mean, there's a lot of similarities between Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau, in the sense that the way they command social media, for instance, or how they can command the agenda. Now, Mr. Trump does it by tweeting at 4 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Trudeau wears, yellow ducky socks at Davos, and so they in a sense of narcissism, they are very similar. So and I think Mr. Trump does want to get along with him. There certainly has been enough time for them to clash publicly, which they have not done. And Mr. Trudeau was very adept at connecting in with Ivanka Trump on one of her big issues, which was getting more female entrepreneurs. So they had those round tables on female entrepreneurship and those kinds of things. So, he's been adept at those things. But there's been these counter currents. I'd even go back to when Fidel Castro passed away. And then all of a sudden, you've got, Justin Trudeau talking about El Comandante. And while he did a couple of things bad, he was good for healthcare. And this became a subject of mockery. As people were mocking this, saying, while he did some things bad, Joseph Stalin, ran a good train station or something like that. It became a meme, and so that was the first indicator that he was just on a different planet than our American friends. Not just Mr. Trump, but generally the ethos of the Americans. And then, of course, it carried on with some of these other issues. So I would just say that, again, we want NAFTA to succeed. We want our trade relationship with the Americans to be a good one. So I'm not wishing ill on that relationship by any stretch. And there's a lot of Canadians, conservative Canadians. Brian Mulroney was in Washington just last week, talking about how important the relationship is. So this is conservatives, liberals, we're all trying to preserve the relationship. But I guess we'll see. I mean, we're a year and a half away from when Mr. Trudeau has to justify his continued existence as Prime Minister. If he hasn't made progress on these issues, then I think we have the right to complain. I mean, you look at softwood lumber issue, which is maybe not a lot of your viewers know about this issue, but the Liberal government let the softwood lumber agreement with the United States lapse, which is called into question the industry in Canada and how it can survive long term. That's just one example of how important the trade relationship is, and how if you don't move quickly, you can create problems. He's caught a couple of breaks. You know, the Keystone XL pipeline was reinstated by President Trump, and that was a good break for Canada after years under the Obama administration of nothing happening. So let's we're all going to learn together. I don't think that Mr. Trudeau's instincts are pro-American, quite frankly, but I'm hoping that he'll see that it's really in Canada's interest that we have these good trading relationships with the Americans.
Halima, you're about to ask something.
Yes. Since we talked about the women, so my question will be regarding that the situation, political situation we are seeing, it's always the question of almost half of the population which is consisted of women. So Justin Trudeau is talking about equal positioning of men and women in the parliament, whereas we see a conservative stance, they are always considered as chauvinist, more towards men's right and men's. So, and lately we have seen the crisis of Patrick Brown, while some circles are saying that he was very vulnerable before even for the candidacy. So what do you see how we are going to be surviving in future, where there are lots of women and the society needs some change for that?
Absolutely, and I would stress a couple things. First of all, we have, as Conservatives, been very clear that harassment at the workplace is utterly unacceptable.
Tolerable.
We will not tolerate that. We will not tolerate women being assaulted by men in the workplace or anywhere. And our leader, Andrew Scheer, has made it clear after the Patrick Brown incident that there's no tolerance for that kind of behavior within our caucus. And we are extending through all parties' efforts better rules, better procedures to deal with those things. So that's where I think it should be, and look, society's evolving on these issues as it should, and I think we all agree that that's a good thing. Now let me talk about Mr. Trudeau. Well, first of all, no political party is immune from this. There are two Liberal MPs under suspension, both from Alberta, because of these issues. So it's not just Patrick Brown.
Only the
it's
Conservatives.
two Liberal MPs who are under the investigation right now too. So we have a Prime Minister, Trudeau, who likes to claim that he is a feminist, likes to wear that mantle, and he wears it proudly around the world, and he is celebrated as a feminist. But when you look at his policies, it's a little bit of a different story. A lot of his policies are affecting the ability of women to gain jobs in our marketplace. You know, we asked him when they were focusing in on their attack on local businesses, changing the tax rates, making it difficult for family firms to survive because there was going to be a 74% marginal rate on the dividends of the private corporation. You know, that was affecting women entrepreneurs disproportionately, because a lot of the startups now are female-driven startups. And we stood in the House. Lisa Raitt would stand, Andrew Scheer would stand, Pierre Poilievre, our very good and very impressive finance critic, stood up and said, you say you're pro-women, Mr. Prime Minister, but your policies are impacting women in our society. And we never really got an answer to that. And so I would just encourage women to look at the policies. And when we come out with our pro-economy policies, they're going to be very good for women who are taxpayers, who are moms, who are entrepreneurs. I mean, the first policy out of Andrew Scheer's mouth with his private members bill was to make it easier for moms to be moms and take away this clawback of income that the Canada Revenue Agency was doing. So I think that we can be very pro pro-parent, pro-female, pro-family, and that's certainly our intention.
So here I will lead another thing,
Sure.
which is very. I mean, my being a woman, my mind boggles around for that a lot. Is this that we are living in a smart world where we are seeing far ahead in our future that it's going to be all systematically very smart world. So there is always going to be a disparity for that. So when we talk about smart world, smart future, it is all about brains. So women can be very productive. How come women can't be that productive while they are sitting at home also, and they are producing things too, and they can be very good part of any place in the workplace? So how would we compete, and how would we justify the whole system which is based still on so much stigma against women?
Well, I think you raise a very good point that the workplace is changing rapidly. Automation is making a huge impact. That's going to be the next wave, is artificial intelligence and automation, robots and so on. By the way, the people who are going to be most affected by that are men. The #1 career for men in the United States of America, I don't know the Canadian, but I'm sure it's the same. The #1 career for men in the United States of America is driver, driving, trucks, cabs. Well, if we all go to driverless cars, millions of American males are going to be unemployed, all like that, right? So this is as a society, we're going to have to grapple with this. What has been the human experience, though? The human experience is, with great disruption, overall new jobs are created. You have to find a way to help people who are displaced, for sure, but new jobs are created in areas that you or I can't even imagine. And I think you're absolutely right. It's brain power that is going to matter more.
And it doesn't see whose body it is in. Like the brain is tremendous. I mean, it's man or a woman.
That's right, and that is part of the Canadian conservative ethos, though. This is not antithetical to Canadian conservatism. We believe, as Canadian conservatives, in freedom. We believe in market solutions. We believe in each individual having the ability to succeed. That's what we want as Canadian conservatives. So it actually feeds into what conservatism is for us. Men, women, urban, rural, Canadian-born, not Canadian-born, doesn't matter. What matters is what's up here and your ability to participate in the economy. So I think that there's a real opportunity for conservatives, and I don't disagree that there may be that bias against conservatives. Oh well, you're not pro-female enough, or what have you. Although a lot of the trailblazer politicians in Canada, female politicians, were conservative female politicians. Agnes MacPhail, the first female MP, Flora MacDonald, going back, Kim Campbell, first female prime minister. They were conservatives. But I grant you that there is that stigma that we have to overcome. But I think we've actually got a philosophical framework that is more consistent with females being successful than the other political parties.
Anil Jethi.
Okay, now let's come back to our Prime Minister, who is doing a lot of town halls. So one of the town hall I saw, somebody asked him about ISI, those people coming back, and his answer is very vague. He says, I'm taking them back because they equal them to European settlers.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like he doesn't understand
Italians
between
and
the
Greeks
fighters and the people running from war zones.
Yeah.
What is you have to say?
It was
they
very
attacked our forces.
Yeah, very bizarre.
Attack our integrity of Canada.
Yes,
And
indeed.
in another town hall, one of our veterans asked him about some issues regarding the funds. He said, don't have enough money.
Yeah.
Whereas he's giving money here and there.
So this is very interesting. We see in unscripted events like this the real motivations of our Prime Minister. And we've been asking questions about these returning ISIS fighters. We're the only country, Western country that I know of, that is taking this approach. Britain, USA, France, Germany. If you're a returning ISIS fighter, you're arrested. Okay, and you're thoroughly investigated, and you are not
tried.
Yeah, and you're tried. You're not left to come back into society, at least immediately. And that's the approach of the Canadian government, which is bizarre.
No, another thing is like maybe tomorrow he can take ex-Nazis back because.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, these people who were fleeing Europe after the Second World War were not. They were victims.
Yeah, they were fleeing
of Nazis. Yeah. They weren't perpetrators of it. And if we found a few perpetrators, and then we did arrest them and we tried them. If you were found to have Nazi links after the Second World War, there was a process by which you were accountable for your crimes.
And these people went by purpose, with their full consent, to fight against Canada and other NATO forces.
Exactly. Exactly. So this was a very bizarre comment to liken it to people fleeing Europe after the disruption of the Second World War. I have no understanding of why he said it that way. And it's actually quite outrageous that he did that. Then this Afghan, a Canadian veteran of the Afghan conflict, stands up, says, look, I've lost a leg. I don't have feeling in the other leg very much. You've given $10.5 million to Omar Khadr. You promised us a whole bunch of things. You haven't delivered on it. Why? You know, he said I was willing to give my body to my country. I was willing to give my life to my country. What I wasn't expecting was my country to turn its back on me. I mean, it was so powerful, so powerful. And Mr. Trudeau's response was, well, we run out of money.
We have got no funds.
Yeah, we have no funds, which is A, wrong, and B, insulting. I really have no words. I found the whole thing so shocking and so outrageous that I believe that this video of that particular clip has been seen millions of times already by Canadians. I think on one site it's been seen 2.8 million times.
Yes.
On the Conservative Party of Canada Facebook, it's been seen.
Facebook, we have done twice. I put on that poster twice.
It's being shared and shared.
Wake up Canada.
So you don't have to take my word for it or your word for it. Viewers can see for themselves. But it's not. It's an outrageous moment of our Prime Minister.
There's one concern in
unthinking
that video,
and uncaring.
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, by all means.
There was one concern regarding that video. When he gave this answer, that he compared them with the European settlers.
Yeah.
People were clapping.
Crazy.
Well,
understood.
I don't understand that. I think if they thought about it a little bit further, which I'm sure they will.
We as a conservative should start educating them. This is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, you know, when you forget your history, you tend to repeat it.
Yeah.
So my question will be that we are having a leadership crisis. There is a lot of problem in our electoral system also. I feel like the nomination and all that process, everything needs reforms because we can see that radicals are penetrating in the system very fast. And as far as I know, like since last 5-6 years, we are observing that is openly, immensely, not only penetrating, but pushing the system to go to the ways where we have struggled so much to reach somewhere out. So as a conservative leader, what will you do? Because the people are the same around. So how would we see any change?
So this allows me to talk a little bit about my private member's bill, which is actually going to a vote next week in Parliament. And it is a bill designed to prevent radicalization that occurs because of foreign funding. So there's a gap in our law right now that allows radical elements in other countries to fund schools here, to fund non-governmental organizations.
Madrasas.
Exactly. And so let me just explain what the bill does. So the bill says that if you are a country where terrorism or radicalization is promoted or encouraged, you would be put on a list by the government that country would be listed. And if that country is listed by the government, then no money can flow from any organization or individual or government agency in that country to schools or organizations here in Canada. And I've actually got a lot of support from moderate Muslim groups, as well as anti-terrorism groups here, and they say, yes, we need this law by Parliament if we're going to counteract the radicalization that is going on within our midst. So I'm hoping that my bill will be passed by Parliament, and that would make a positive difference for the very issue that you've raised.
You've been a part of government and you were national treasurer too. What do you see when you are giving money to other countries? If you look at with the trend record of our Prime Minister, all those countries who we are fighting with are getting money.
Radical countries getting the
Is
funds.
there any system you follow, like this much money will be given to this country?
Yeah, it's always been frustrating, and you know, there's a bureaucracy in Ottawa at Foreign Affairs and Global Affairs that just likes giving out our money. And you know, when we were in power, we had ministers who would try to rein them in. You know, why are we giving millions of dollars to projects in China when China is no longer a poor country?
Or to Clinton Foundation.
Well, there's that too. There's that too. So, but from or to these organizations.
Or Aga Khan Foundation.
Yeah.
It was not worth.
Yeah. So I mean, and this was a constant tug of war with the Ottawa bureaucracy that sometimes had its own mission, shall we say. So I think you need constant oversight of these things, and but they have their own interests. Like for instance, we cut off funds to the UN agency that was involved in the West Bank and Gaza, because we found that the money that went through via the UN was actually going to Hamas. You know, was going towards terrorist activity or groups that were involved in terrorist activity. And so we said, you know, you're not getting any more funds from us for this UN agency. Well, what did the Liberals do? They turned back the tap is back on again. You know,
Yeah.
and
Hamas is getting the funds.
yeah, absolutely. So it's very frustrating. We are obviously calling into question. Peter Kent has been very active in this. So we will continue to say, look, you know, funds for humanitarian purposes, fine. For helping to build an economy, always a good thing. Reduce corruption. I would like to see more funds being used to reduce corruption. If we can reduce corruption in these countries, then we will have a lot better impact on the ability of any money to be put to good use. There's an establishment in Ottawa that doesn't want to see that kind of accountability, unfortunately.
If I am a bank manager, or if I am in some office where I can give some money, if I give it to my son or to my family, I am being prosecuted. How come Prime Minister who say he's a family friend of Aga Khan and give them the funds?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the outrageous thing. It's the first time in history that a Prime Minister has been found to be in contravention of this ethical law. And so his response was to shrug his shoulders and say, "Oops, sorry, I won't do that again."
But will he repay the money?
This is what we're asking. You know, $200,000 of taxpayer money for his personal vacation with his friend. You know, and the media, the mainstream media, is not covering this. They're just taking Mr. Trudeau's word on this. I think it's a really big mistake, because this is a real ethical violation, and there has to be some sort of consequence for this.
Main media is not doing reporting these days. They are doing numbers only. Or they are this number, no reporting.
Yeah.
They never go to ground.
No, you're
Just
right.
sit at computer and do the numbers and feed the people, okay, Liberal this number,
Yeah.
and Liberals always up, always.
Yeah, no, it's very frustrating, but we are continuing to hammer away at it, and we feel that this should not go unpunished.
Thank you very much, our panelists, and thank you very much, Honourable Tony Clement.
Thank you.
In the end, is there anything what we missed in our discussion you'd like to share with our viewers?
No, I think it's great to have these viewers here. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I look forward to continued interaction. You can find me on Twitter, Tony Clement CPC, on Instagram, Tony Clement CPC, and Facebook, Tony Clement PSM.
Thank you, viewers, for watching TAG TV's Meet the Politician series event.